Welcome to the channel Legendary Legacy, audiobook free daily, where you can enjoy the best books without spending a penny. Today, we will start a new book, Thick Face, Black Heart by author Chin-Ning Chu. This is a book that teaches you how to apply the ancient wisdom of Asian philosophy and strategy to achieve success in business and life. We will begin with Part 1, The Essence, Secret of Thick Face, Black Heart. The episodes of the channel are published on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast and other podcast platforms. You can search for our channel by typing Legendary Legacy, audiobook free daily into the search bar. Please support our channel by liking, commenting and subscribing so that we have more motivation to produce more audiobook episodes with the best and latest quality. Thank you for listening and have a nice day. To the reader. Throughout the book the generic businessman and the pronoun he have been used for the sake of brevity. In all instances it is the author's intention to imply both the male and female gender. Introduction. In 1949, at the age of 3, holding tight onto my mother's skirt, I ran with my parents and 2 younger brothers across a Shanghai airport runway. Amid the sound of bombs blasting, we boarded the last commercial flight out of China. From a life of affluence and privilege, my family was reduced to the condition of faceless immigrants among millions in Taiwan who had fled the conquering communists. All the possessions we were able to salvage from the devastation of our lives fit into the suitcases my parents carried. In 1969, when I was 22, one left Taiwan to begin a new life in America. Once more a faceless immigrant, I arrived in Los Angeles with 2 suitcases containing the few possessions I was able to bring to my new home, clothes I had made for myself, a few personal effects, and 2 books. By this time, I had already read hundreds of books, and I owned many, but I brought only 2 to the United States, Sun Tzu's Art of War and a slim, black-bound volume written by Li Zhongchang called Thick Black Theory. The Art of War, an ancient book of strategy and wisdom, is fairly well known in the West. Thick Black Theory, however, is a relatively modern work and is still virtually unknown outside of China. Although I cannot say exactly why I brought Thick Black Theory with me, at the time I had a strong, intuitive sense that it would prove to be very important. In its original form, it is an erratic, difficult book. Li's writing is obscure. His arguments include great intuitive leaps that often left me behind. But after my first reading of Thick Black Theory, I knew that there was something very profound in it. For the past 20 years I have returned to this book time and time again, not quite knowing why, except for a powerful and disturbing sense that it held the key to a puzzle I was trying to solve. It has colored the way I now think about all the experiences of my life. I left many precious possessions behind in Taiwan, but was able to bring Li's invaluable book with me to America. Li first published his ideas in 1911, a year of chaos and profound change in China. It was the year of the overthrow of the Qing dynasty, the last in a succession of imperial dynasties that stretched back to the beginning of human civilization. Thick Black Theory has never been translated or published outside of China. Even within China, Li's frank discussion of the uses of ruthlessness and hypocrisy was so disturbing to the ruthless and hypocritical, that Thick Black Theory has been banned almost since the day of its publication. Even if Thick Black Theory were to be faithfully translated, it would still be incomprehensible to most non-Chinese. The Chinese language is highly context-oriented. The basic build-ing blocks of the language are short, 3- and 4-character phrases that have an extended meaning far beyond the literal meaning of the characters that make up the phrase, somewhat like idiomatic expressions in English. This extended meaning is derived from history, ancient literature, folk tales, and a myriad of other sources. Thus, in a few characters, a Chinese writer can express a very complex idea by skillfully combining these associations. Foreigners who are considered fluent in Chinese, but do not have an intimate knowledge of the Chinese culture, often understand the words, but are unaware of the levels of meaning that are subtly implied. With Li's work, this difficulty is even more extreme. His chaotic style makes him difficult to understand even for learned Chinese. He writes in brief, disconnected epigrams that are meaningless to anyone not deeply immersed in Chinese literature. In its original form, Li's thick black theory is of little use to Westerners. But I have always felt that his profound yet bluntly honest vision of the world, which is the essence of Li's philosophy, would be of great importance to anyone who desires to exert a measure of control over their own life. It is this vision, this attitude, this essence, that I refer to simply as thick face, black heart. Li estimated that it would take 3 years of studious endeavor to master the practice of his ideas. Li's ideas ignited the sparks within me that led me to explore in great depth for the past 20 years, the uncharted reality of our daily lives in relation to thick face, black heart. In my inquiry, I discovered there are 2 distinct levels of understanding. There is the superficial aspect, learning the methods and practices by which you can get what you want by imposing your will on others, and there is the deeper, spiritual understanding of thick face, black heart as the natural and proper state of your soul. Having been raised in China, I was already immersed in Buddhism, Taoism, and Confucianism, despite the fact that I was Catholic. The principles of these religions are so deeply ingrained in Chinese culture that it is not necessary to formally profess any of them to be influenced by them. My continuing search for understanding took me to all parts of the world. I studied the Hindu scriptures and Christian mystics. At one point in my life, I gave up my successful business career in Los Angeles and moved to a remote mountain in the Oregon Cascades for a long period of meditation and soul-searching. As my horizons broadened, I came back to my Chinese roots with a new perspective. I looked at Buddhism, Taoism, Confucianism, and their Japanese extraction, Zen Buddhism. It became clearer and clearer to me that these diverse religions and philosophies shared the same central principle, and that if I could understand and extract this principle, it would give me the power and control over my own life that I sought. In my struggle to articulate this principle, I kept coming back to Li Zhongchang and the phrase, thick face, black heart. Although I do not believe that at the time he wrote Thick Black Theory, Li himself clearly realized the full breadth and depth of his subject, I understand now that the value of Li's work was in his putting a secular face on a principle that had previously always been discussed in abstract, religious or philosophical terms. For years I tried, without success, to write about Thick Black Theory. Finally, I turned away from it and wrote my first 2 books, The Chinese Mind Game and The Asian Mind Game. Now, at last, I can write Thick Face, Black Heart. The ideas I express are my own, but I wish to acknowledge my debt to Li. However, my book is not an interpretation of Li's work. To me, his book was not so much a source of knowledge but rather a way of looking at things, a starting point for the development of my own thoughts and a touchstone for the examination of new ideas and experiences. The result of my inquiry is that from this book, you can receive the instant benefit of the knowledge of thick face, black heart as a concentrated, potent capsule. The knowledge revealed in this book will mirror your own life experiences that are familiar to you and that you are not able to verbalize. Because of the novel ideas in this book, in an instant, a revelation in your understanding can occur. Give up virtue, renounce wisdom, people will benefit 1,000 times. Give up kindness, renounce morality, people will embrace love and filial piety. Give up cleverness, renounce greed, bandits and thieves will vanish. Lao Tzu, Tao Te Ching. The essence, secret of thick face, black heart. When you conceal your will from others, that is thick. When you impose your will on others, that is black. Li Zhongchang. Thick face, black heart, is the secret law of nature which governs successful behavior in every aspect of life. The American pioneers had it. The Asian businessmen use it. From the ancient to the present, all successful people utilize the secret. Thick face, black heart is the wisdom of the soul, and it knows no division of national, race, or religion. The implementation of this law benefits people in their business practices as well as in their personal lives. By being true to the law of nature in our daily encounters, we will fulfill the highest potential within and around us, thus leading us to the proper unfolding of our destiny. Through the utilization of the power of thick face, black heart, each one of us will discover the destiny to which we must be true. Americans are constantly bombarded through the media with images of success and happiness. Success is often judged by our possessions, the make of car we drive, the designer watch we sport, or the latest fashions we have wrapped around our bodies. A successful life is one that is lived through understanding and pursuing one's own path, not chasing after the dreams or fulfilling the expectations of others. Many people are so completely obsessed with the pursuit of false euphoria that they attempt to deny the existence of life's difficulties. A positive attitude is important, but it is only part of the story. Understanding how to surmount pain, doubt, and failure is a vital component in winning the game of life. So often we are so concerned with what makes us feel good that we forget what makes us great. Character is not made out of sunshine and roses. Like steel, it is forged in fire, between the hammer and the anvil. By getting in touch with the power of thick face, black heart, you will realize a new consciousness. One of the results of reading this book will be the shatter of your traditional concepts of ruthlessness. Thick face, black heart is and is not about ruthlessness. You will learn that by adapting and adopting a form of non-destructive ruthlessness, you will gain the freedom necessary to achieve effective execution of your life's tasks. Thick face, black heart is not about mastering a specific skill, nor is it something I can give to you. The power of thick face, black heart is already within you. It is your inner strength and the natural state of your true self, where perfect joy, clarity, courage, and compassion are an inseparable part of you. By tapping into this power, to whatever degree you cannot fail to benefit. The power of thick face, black heart will guide you to be effective in your actions and lead you to your desired results. Most of all, by getting in touch with this power within you, you will gain unshakable clarity and focus to help you discover and achieve your intended destiny. The inward state. Thick face, black heart is not a doctrine in itself. Rather, it concerns an element that is common to many doctrines. On its practical, less philosophical level, thick face, black heart is simply about action and its effectiveness. To take an example from Modem America, dozens of books are published each year that attempt to teach you how to make yourself a more effective executive, a better salesperson, and generally a happier, more dynamic individual. In these books, the author prescribes a course of action that will lead to the desired result. It is generally a plan that has worked for the author and for some of his students. But it doesn't necessarily work well for many readers, even though they carefully follow the author's instructions. For example, two people can read the same book on lion taming. They can enter the lion's cage dressed identically. They can use identical gestures and words to command the lion, but the results will not be the same. One of them will get the lion to jump through the hoop and the other will end up as a gruesome mess on the floor of the lion's cage. These authors do not seem to be aware that there is an inward state that must be achieved in order for words and actions to be effective. The experts who write these books are good at what they do because they have had the luck to achieve that state intuitively or unconsciously. They do not seem to comprehend the problems of those who have not been so fortunate. Thick face, black heart is a theory of great practical use. It can be applied to any endeavor, and utilized for either good or evil purposes. The first superficial exposure to thick face, black heart is often shocking and repellent because it can serve the criminal as easily as the saint. It seems to be a selfish, ruthless, and completely amoral concept. However, I contend that these do not necessarily have to be destructive attributes. As the name implies, there are two elements to this inward state, the thick face, and the black heart. Thick face, the shield. Consider the Asian concept of face. It refers to how other people think about you and treat you. Most Asians are tremendously concerned that others think well of them and especially that others display respect for their personal dignity. Juxtapose this idea with the Western notion that having a thick skin and being insensitive to criticism and the negative opinions of others is the best. Fused together, these two ideas approximate the concept of thick face, a shield to protect our self-esteem from the bad opinions of others. A person adept at thick face creates his own positive self-image despite the criticism of others. In attempting any goal, there is always room for doubt about our ability to achieve, our motives for achieving, or our worthiness to receive the benefits of achievement. Often we feel a need to first improve ourselves and that only after we have become more worthy, will we be able to achieve the fulfillment of our dreams. The thick-faced person has the ability to put self-doubt aside. He refuses to accept the limitations that others have tried to impose on him and, more importantly, he does not accept any of the limitations that we commonly impose on ourselves. He does not question his ability or worthiness. In his own eyes, he is perfect. The world has a tendency to accept our own judgment of ourselves. By his absolute self-confidence, the thick-faced person instills confidence in others. They see him as successful and allow him the latitude to succeed. Former President Reagan represents a good example of a thick face. He had very limited skills as an administrator. His aide's most important job was to prevent him from making off-the-cuff remarks about complex issues. Whenever he did, he invariably betrayed an appalling ignorance of the subject. But Mr. Reagan had such an unshakable image of himself as a great statesman that he acted decisively even when totally ignorant of the issues involved. His simple answers made America feel confident. After years of social turmoil at home and humiliation abroad, Americans began to feel good again, to feel that things were under control once more. The American people shared Ronald Reagan's opinion of himself and he finished his term of office as the most popular president in recent history. On the other hand, another former president, Jimmy Carter, better understood the awesome responsibilities of his office, but was completely overwhelmed by them. He was too keenly aware of his own limitations. Consequently, he agonized over important issues. The American people interpreted his agony as incompetence and turned him out of office by a wide majority. By truly appreciating the difficulties facing the nation and allowing the public to share in his insecurities, Carter projected a sense of powerless despair. If Colonel Oliver North had felt one shred of guilt about the crimes to which he admitted involvement in the Iran-Contra affair, he would be in jail today. Instead, he is a free man, a symbol of patriotism to millions, and a speaker who commands huge fees. He expressed no remorse for his criminal actions. Oliver North believed so strongly that he was a patriot that he communicated a heroic image to millions of people. A man less convinced of his own righteousness would have been severely punished for his crimes and ostracized by the public. A thick face need not be assertive or aggressive. He may be humble and submissive. Thick face is the ability to adopt whatever manner the situation calls for without regard for what other people think of you. There is an ancient Chinese story about a young man named Han Xian who had a reputation as a skilled kung fu fighter. One day when Han was walking through the streets of his city, he was stopped by two men who had heard of his skill. The pair challenged him to a fight to the death. Han tried to decline the challenge, but the men would not let him walk away. They insisted he must either fight or crawl like a dog through the leader's outspread legs. Although to the Chinese this is an unspeakable humiliation, Han Xian chose to crawl rather than fight. Word of his humiliation and his cowardice spread quickly through the city. He was laughed at openly, but never once offered any excuse or explanation for his seemingly spineless action. Later in his life, he revealed himself to be one of the most formidable and fearless warriors in the history of China. To him, the pair of unschooled ruffians had posed no threat. It was simply that they were unworthy adversaries. In his heart he knew himself to be a fearless warrior. He did not care what anyone else thought. Han's thick face was a meek and cowardly facade, adopted to save himself the trouble of killing two such inconsequential hoodlums. In contrast to Han Xian's inner sense of his own worth, there is the case of a friend of mine who is currently involved in helping a doctor develop and patent a prototype piece of medical equipment. In the beginning, there was a vague and inconclusive discussion about a partnership in exchange for my friend's technical expertise in building the apparatus. Since then, my friend has worked tirelessly, but nothing more has been said about the partnership or any other form of compensation. My friend is reluctant to bring it up because he does not have the prototype working properly and he does not feel worthy of compensation. He has not asked my advice, so I have not given it. I think he would do well to adopt the thick face of a man with a strong sense of his own worth. He would get his partnership for precisely the reason he is using as an excuse not to confront the doctor: the device is not yet working right. He is still needed. When he has it working and feels confident enough to go to the doctor to discuss compensation, who knows what he will get? At that point, he will be at a severe disadvantage. The doctor will have already achieved his objective and may have no further use for him. Black heart, the spear. Black heart is the ability to take action without regard to how the consequences will affect others. A black heart is ruthless, but it is not necessarily evil. Before the advent of modern medicine, a surgeon operated without being able to anesthetize the patient. He had to be able to cut swiftly and decisively without any regard for his patient's screams and entreaties. In order to be effective, he had to be extremely callous and emotionally detached from the pain he caused. Conversely, a general who is so full of human compassion that he is reluctant to order soldiers to their death is of no use to his country. He will be defeated and his people conquered, whereas a black-hearted general can put the carnage of battle out of his mind and fully concentrate on the required result, victory. An entrepreneur must be able to make hard decisions regarding unprofitable operations. If he cannot, his company will fail. The end result of short-sighted compassion for some employers will be the closure of their entire operation and all of their employees out of work. The black-hearted person is above short-sighted compass, Shaun. He focuses his attention on his goals and ignores the cost. A black-hearted person has the courage to fail. Attempting effective action always implies the risk of failure. A surgeon who has an accident victim in need of a potentially dangerous operation knows that the safest course for him is not to operate. Although the patient is likely to die, the surgeon risks little censure. If he operates and the patient dies, he knows that he risks being blamed for the death. Two sides of the same coin. Thick face and black heart are two sides of the same coin. When one possesses the strength of thick face, one can ignore the criticism and diss of the black heart. It allows one to effectively use the spear to cut through the ignorant and ideas of the masses. It is not possible to practice thick face without black heart, just as it is not possible to practice black heart without thick face. The thick face, black heart practitioner must exercise his ability to ignore criticism, ridicule or vilification from others, and, at the same time, carry out his duties as he sees fit. At any given time, one may freely draw upon more power of thick face and less power of black heart or vice versa as the situation dictates. 3 phases of thick face, black heart. Phase 1, winning at all cost. Thick face, black heart at its crudest level has no moral overtones. It purely addresses how to get what you want, in other words, winning at all costs. Thick face at this level is total lack of conscience, black heart is absolute ruthlessness. In its crudest, most superficial form, thick face, black heart is not about ethics, it is about effective action. A brief glance at the newspaper provides an example. Employees of a major airline have been caught falsifying maintenance reports and safety checks in order to reduce operating costs. The executives who ordered these falsifications clearly understood that they were placing the lives of their passengers, pilots and crews in great jeopardy, which was totally disproportionate to the money they were saving. A spear is a useful tool for peacekeeping as well as a weapon of death. Thick face, black heart like the spear, does not in itself contain evil, and yet one can apply thick face, black heart purely for the pursuit of selfish gains at any costs. Some people are intuitively skillful at utilizing thick face, black heart as a tool to fulfill their selfish motives. For these people, no price is too high to pay for victory, as long as it is achieved at someone else's expense. From ancient times to the present, from east to west, there are many instances of people who have gained through the utilization of phase 1 thick face, black heart. Observe the failure of the American savings and loan institutions, and the illegal dealings of the Bank of Credit and Commerce in Tianal. All of the prestigious individuals behind the scenes of these institutions are masters of the thick face, black heart practice at its crudest level. Their face is impenetrably thick, it shields them from all possible criticism from others and from their own consciences. Their hearts are so black that when they used their spears on the unsuspecting, trusting public, they fated these innocent depositors to slow death from financial bleeding. For these individuals, selfish gain is the aim and thick face, black heart is the means. Phase 1 thick face, black heart leads us to winning, yet our victory often has no sweetness. More often than not, life, through its mysterious forces, will cause our ill deeds to catch up with us. To conquer others through ruthless means is not difficult, all you must do is agree to sell your soul to the devil. There are 3 stages of this phase 1 level. The first stage, thick as a castle wall, black as charcoal. This is the level of the cheap hustler, crook and con man. Although the face is their blackness is apparent to all who see them. They are distasteful and repulsive in everyone's eye. The second stage, thick and hard, black and shimmering, are more advanced practitioners. They have strengthened their face by hardening it, they have polished their black heart to make it more appealing. They are no longer the cheap hustler. Their outward appearance is respect-able. They are the kind of people you think you can trust, only to discover later you have been taken. The third step, so thick it is formless, so black it is colorless, the highest level. This is the level of seemingly virtuous men who can ruthlessly pursue their own ends while being extolled by their victims for their virtue. Some of our politicians, from the past to the present, have achieved such a state. Conquering others requires force. Conquering oneself requires strength. Lao Tzu, Tao Te, not honestly or completely black heart without mention ing the spiritual side of life, as this aspect colors the reality often vulnerably because he has rejected the powerful, wicked behaviors of phase 1 and is in search of the realm of the unknown. His spirit is also demanding greater satisfaction from his conduct. He is in a state of uncertainty, confusion, and sometimes pain and anger. He is overwhelmed by his own new discovery of a multitude of enemies within himself in the form of his own character defects, greed, anger, self-doubt, self-limitation, jealousy, envy, fear, shame, worry, small-mindedness, hatred, delusion, desire, selfishness, laziness, hypocrisy, and pretension. He has discovered that his own mind is the root of high and low, honor and insult, joy and sorrow, while at the same time, his foes are many and his capacity to overcome these obstacles is meager. At this stage, even though he may look disheveled and be considered disjointed by others, within himself, he is going through a powerful transformation. Phase 3, the warrior. This final phase is the combination of all previous phases. Here you will be able to create a meeting ground for the sublime and the ruthless. The following are the qualities of a warrior. Dispassion and detachment. After phase 2, the practitioner becomes indifferent and courageous. He adopts the warrior's attitude, He sees life as a battle that must be fought. There is no way out. He dispassionately does battle with the wicked outer elements while courageously facing his inner enemies. He is then able to detach from them, so that their presence does not thwart him. It is this power of detachment and dispassion which enables the warrior to face life's challenges with calm and grace. The 13th century Hindu philosopher, Shankaracharya, mentioned that even the greatest warrior, when standing in the midst of the battlefield, sweats with fear. However, while his body is fearful and his mind is fearful, his spirit is fearless. He is able to detach himself from the fear of the body and the mind, clinging instead to the fearlessness of his spirit. Recently, I watched an old movie, a story about the courage and love of the early American pioneer settlers. It was evident that they understood the sublime state of calm detachment. They were indifferent to suffering, taking action in spite of their fear, enduring the loneliness, quietly accepting and overcoming the adversity while never losing sight of their objectives. Witnessing their warrior-like courage and self-determination moved me many times to tears during the film. It is not that you are not affected by the challenges and become inert in this state of detachment. Rather, you are not controlled by your emotions, so you may press on with greater courage and renewed energy. Fit for greatness. I have seen many people grow old, but not graciously. Their eyes reflect pain and disillusionment. They have been beaten by life, they have so many broken dreams. The hope and expectations of youth have vanished, only death awaits. The mistake they made was in not preparing themselves for the harsh lessons their Creator set for them on their life's path, necessary lessons to strengthen their spirit and make them fit for greatness. Unlike the warrior who accepts harsh discipline as a privilege and honor, these people are like pieces of grain caught in the millstone, ground down by the wheel of life, in agony and in pain. As most do, I used to pray for good times and good fortune. The prayer of, "Let thy will be done," used to scare me to death. However, in reality this world in which we live is fragile and ever-changing, and our existence and survival is delicately connected to the invisible thread of God's grace. Gain and loss is the constant human condition. As I watched the fire in the Oakland and Berkeley Hills in the San Francisco Bay Area that burned 700 luxury homes, it confirmed again that it doesn't matter how much we wish to ignore the possibility of any negative and unpleasant aspects of our lives, our Creator writes His own script for life. Now when I pray for the unshakable inner strength and the strength of the warrior to accept these harsh lessons and learn from them, not to be destroyed by them. The union of the spiritual and the material worlds. In this book we will be dealing mostly with Phase 3. We will learn how to live in this world and not be a victim of it, nor will we impose pain and loss unjustly on those who do not deserve it. Our objective in practicing thick face, black heart is to be able to defend ourselves against others' aggression. In this way we become warriors, but not in the traditional Western sense of the killing machine. The outer ability of the warrior to effectively execute his objective is guided by inner wisdom which is cultivated through the acceptance of life's challenges and the quest for spiritual balance. The 16th century Japanese sword master Miyamoto Musashi said, "The warrior is one who uses the pen and sword with equal skill." The message here is that to be a truly great warrior, you must be skilled with more than your weapon. The great soldier is a balanced being, who through his understanding of life is able to master the virtue of his weapons. How the samurai handles his sword is metaphorically equivalent to how we handle our daily tasks, especially the task of survive. Musashi also said, "The way of warrior skill is the way of nature." When you are in line with the power of nature, knowing the rhythm of all situations, you will be able to cut and strike the enemy naturally. As you practice the Phase 3 thick face, black heart, gradually you will see no division or conflict between the spiritual world and the mundane world. Your spiritual strength will become an essential tool to conquer the day-to-day realities. As we incorporate the sublime spiritual insights into the ruthless business world, we will gain the best of both worlds. A true thick face, black heart practitioner. When the great two is forgotten, virtue and morality arise. When knowledge and intelligence are born, the great pretense begins. When there is no harmony within the family, filial piety and devotion arise. When the country is confused and in chaos, loyal officials appear. Lao Tzu, Tu Te Ching. In every action there are two aspects, the inner and the outer. The inner is the force which motivates one's actions. It is unseen by anyone. The outer is the expression of the inner state and it is visible to all. Contrary to common understanding, a good man's actions are not always gentle. They may be ruthless, cold and dispassionate. The greatest sage of China, Lao Tzu, understood the true nature of thick face, black heart. A friend of mine once made a very profound statement when he said, "When people act overly nice, I always wonder about their motives." There was once a master who had charge over many disciples. All entertained great intentions to gain enlightenment, yet each waged battle with their uncontrolled desires. The master would appear to ignore their misbehavior and allow them to indulge in their minor mischief, but suddenly, like a thunderbolt, he would strike. He punished the offenders severely, sometimes even with a whip across the body so the disciple would never forget the lesson. A witness may have believed this action by the master to be violent and cruel. Yet the disciples only experienced the love of the master and was grateful for the master's teaching. In the Christian Holy Bible, St. Mark tells the story of the money changers in which Jesus Christ goes into the temple in Jerusalem and angrily overturns all their tables and chairs, saying that God's temple was for prayer, not for use as a den of thieves. Even though Jesus' outward expression was one of anger, this did not affect his peaceful inner state. Conversely, some people wear permanent, plastic smiles on their faces in their eagerness to be considered by others as nice people. It is very obvious to most that their smile is merely skin deep, yet these people spend all of their constructive energies putting up this sweet facade, which leaves them empty and powerless within. A good man's outward appearance and actions sometimes may appear to be cruel and violent and his expression egotistical, yet he possesses a pure heart within. On the other hand, a false prophet may express an apparent high degree of outward humility and gentleness, but inwardly his sole objective is self-gain. A false prophet, in order to thrive, is dependent on the approval of the public, whereas a good man lives in harmony with himself, he neither seeks nor needs external approval. The natural way of thick face, black heart is beyond human manipulation, beyond the petty standards of human judgment. When one acts in harmony with the universal will, one's actions are aligned with the good of all and benefit all. You are neither self-righteous, nor too eager to please, nor are you seeking approval. In action, you are swift, competent and dispassionate. In yielding, you are unabashed, and have no concern for others' judgments. In conquering, you are effective and can be ruthless. In action and non-action, you are changeless. You are a true thick face, black heart practitioner. Summary of key points. The thick-faced person has the ability to put self-doubt aside. He refuses to accept the limitations that others have tried to impose on him and, more importantly, he does not accept any of the limitations that we commonly impose on ourselves. In his eyes, he is perfect. Black heart, the spear, to do battle with others and yourself. A black heart is ruthless, but it is not necessarily evil. The black-hearted person is above short-sighted compassion. He focuses his attention on his goals and ignores the cost. A black-hearted person has the courage to fail. The think face, black heart practitioner must exercise his ability to ignore criticism, ridicule, or vilification from others, and at the same time carry out his duties as he sees fit. Thick face, black heart at its crudest level has no moral overtones. It is purely addressing how to get what you want. Thick face at this level is totally unconscionable, black heart is absolutely ruthless. The wisdom of spirituality is the root of mundane living. The ability to judge good from evil is essential to the practitioners of thick face, black heart. There is no one out there you have to conquer. When you have successfully conquered yourself, the world will be at your feet. The ultimate courage of a thick face, black heart warrior is dispassion. This means having the courage to fight in spite of fear, to be able to detach from the emotions associated with defeat so that its presence does not thwart you. The union of the spiritual and the material worlds, you will be able to create a meeting ground for the sublime spiritual world and the ruthless business world. Ultimately, you will see no division or conflict between the spiritual world and the ruthless world. Your sublime spiritual insight will become an essential tool to conquer the day-to-day realities. When one acts in harmony with the universal will, one's actions are aligned with the good of all and benefit of all. You are neither self-righteous, nor too eager to please, nor are you seeking approval. In caring, you are ruthless. In action and non-action, you are changeless. You are a true thick face, black heart practitioner. The proper function of man is to live, not to exist. Jack London.